Hey everybody, welcome back to my van. Well, I'm out here in the van. It's actually quite cool outside. It's I think it's 21 or 22 degrees Celsius. It's very smoky, so I'm in the van. Had a good walk earlier. It's been okay. If the smoke doesn't clear and it's not forecast to clear, it looks like I'll be heading back home soon. So the other day I had a chance to talk to somebody about, they asked me some ideas that I had about what would I do if I was building another camper vehicle, whether it be a bus, RV, whether it be a ambulance, whether it be a van, whether it be camperizing a cargo trailer or converting a trailer or a truck camper, whatever. What are my top things that I would tell them? And I thought about it, and I came up with one, and I started talking about it, and then I went, whoa, wait, there's actually something more important than that. So in this video, I'm going to go through the top 2 things that I have, or that I did recommend for them, or that I would recommend for you if you're looking at building your own or converting your own RV of any type into something that's going to be, well, better suited or for what you want. So a little bit of their backstory, and I'm not going to give a lot of it away because it's their story to tell. But they want a vehicle that they can get out and enjoy nature. They like camping. They're comfortable with camping. They have their stuff that they need for camping. And they want something a little bit nicer, though. They have a daily driver, and they think that they wanted a van or an ambulance or something like that to convert. And they said, if we were going to do it, what would you recommend to us to do? And I thought about it, and like I said, I came up with something, and as I was telling them that, something else came up. And the thing that came up to me is probably the most important thing is, don't skimp on your base unit. Now, I know many people who have built vehicles or campers in old vehicles, and they've regretted it. And I see it constantly online. I see constantly people selling vehicles on different sites saying, it's beautiful conversion, but the engine blew and I can't afford to replace it. It's a beautiful vehicle, but it won't pass the safety because it's rusted out. It's a beautiful vehicle, but it needs all this work. Why spend so much money on converting a vehicle and so much time on converting a vehicle or a trailer or anything like that into what's going to be your residence or your temporary residence or whatever, or your weekend residence, if it's not built on a good base? If you have to work for an extra year, 2 years, 3 years to be able to afford something really good, do it. It's well worth it. Don't go and buy something that's rusted out, build it out so that it's beautiful inside, and then have problems. Don't go out and buy something with a gazillion miles on it because it was used as a delivery vehicle and the engine's ready to pack it in, spend all the money and time to build out the inside, just to find out that you have to replace the engine and you can't afford it. So whatever you're doing, spend the money and buy something good to be your base. Now, I said I wasn't going to tell you too much about them, but I'm going to tell you this. As we were talking, I found out that they have a daily driver. Their daily driver's in okay shape, but it's getting to the point where it's going to need some major work. They thought of going out and buying a van, and then they would have the van and the daily driver. They wouldn't be able to use the van daily just because of where they park in some situations like that. But they thought, in case of emergency, we have it. So after talking for a little bit, they actually are thinking about, instead of going with the van, that they will look at taking the money from the van, selling the car that they have, and then buying themselves either an SUV or a small van to pull a trailer, or buying themselves a pickup truck where they can actually put a topper on it or a camper on it, or they could pull a trailer or a fifth wheel. That may work out better for them for a couple reasons. First of all, they'll be able to get the daily vehicle problem out of the way. They'll be able to get themselves a good tow vehicle, and then they'll be able to save up money while they're using the new vehicle to buy themselves or build themselves something better. So that's where they're leaning now. I don't know, and like I said, I'm not going to tell you a bunch about them in case they do start a build thread or if they do start a YouTube channel or anything, but that's what they're leaning to, and I think it's a very wise thing for them to do. So what was the first thing that I was talking to them about before I had to stop and change to better vehicle? Well, the first thing, and this is the biggest thing that I can think after the vehicle, and that is don't skimp on insulation. Insulation. Don't skimp on good windows that are insulated or double pane or thermal pane or whatever. Spend the money to insulate, to put in good windows, to put in good vents before you do anything else. Insulation is one of these things that you can't go back and easily fix later. If you forget to put in a light or you want an extra light, it's easy to run an extra wire. Fishing a wire through you can do almost simply. But doing insulation, if you get your roof on, if you get your walls on and everything, it's hard to put more insulation in. My van is very insulated. I love my van. It's great. But if I did it again, if I had any reason to rip it down to the bare bones, I would probably double the insulation I put in the van just because I know how much more insulation is worth it. I would probably go insulation on the outside, Reflectex in the middle, and then insulation on the inside, just to get more insulation. I would probably insulate areas that I don't currently have insulated, just to have the insulation. Why? Because when it's hot outside and you've got an air conditioner inside and you've run the air conditioner for a little bit, if it's well insulated, it will hold the coolness. If it's hot or if it's cold outside and you have the furnace on inside, it'll hold the heat better. Perfect example. Have a good friend. Every once in a while, I bump into them at a different campground. A couple of years ago, I bumped into them at a campground. They were camping. I was going to camp there. And we got chatting, and he said, yeah, it's supposed to snow tonight. I said, yeah, isn't that great? He said, yeah, I'm not sure how we're going to do. I said, well, you got a beautiful trailer, and they have an amazing trailer. They had everything. They had a generator. They have the propane tanks. They have good batteries. They have solar on the roof. They have everything. I said, you'll do fine. He said, well, I've never camped in the snow before, so I'm curious to see what it'll do. I said, well, we'll find out. So we hung out for a while, and then I went out for a little bit of a walk and went back, had something to eat, went outside and watched the stars, watched the clouds move in, and then around 10 o'clock or so, I headed off to bed. Had a great sleep, and then woke up around 2, 3 o'clock, somewhere in around there. It was a little bit chilly, so I turned the furnace on for a while, warmed up the van, and I fell back asleep again. The furnace shut off and didn't come on again. And about 7:30, 8 o'clock, I woke up. It felt really nice in here, a little bit cool, so I turned the furnace on just to warm it up a little bit. I'm a wimp. I like it warm. Then I looked out the window and realized we had between 6 and 8 inches of snow on the ground. And the temperature had dropped dramatically overnight. Thought, oh, whatever. Got up, made myself some breakfast, cleaned things up, and went outside and enjoyed the snow, did some pictures, went for a little walk, watched vehicles get stuck and get pulled out and everything. And then I decided that I'd head over to their campground. So I packed everything up, drove over to their campsite, and had a chat with them. Well, like I said, they have a very, very nice trailer. I mean a really nice trailer. I says, well, how did it go last night? He says, it was interesting. He says, about 7:30 last night, we turned the furnace on. He says, the furnace ran from 7:30 last night until 7 a.m. this morning, at which time the furnace shut off because the low battery alarm cut in and we ran out of battery power. He said, so I went outside, I started up the generator, got the generator going, turned on the furnace wouldn't fire. I went outside and found out that I went through a 20-pound bottle of propane overnight. Now, he thinks it was pretty much full when it started at 7:30 the night before. He says if it wasn't completely full, he says it was pretty darn close. He says, but we drained an entire bottle overnight. Now, like I said, his unit is beautiful. It's a great unit, but it's a one-season unit. It has no insulation in the walls. The windows are single pane. They leak air and everything. The slide, it's a good slide and everything, but it's not sealed completely. And his unit was cold. Like he said, it wasn't warm in our unit last night, even with the furnace running all night. So we had a good chat about what would the differences be if it was fully insulated. What would the differences be if the windows were a thermal window or if you even put a storm window on it? And we got chatting about that. And he says, I wish it was easier to do because I'd love to do it. He says, but it would just be impossible to do. And that's the biggest problem with insulation. Once you've got the unit built, it's hard to insulate it again unless you rip it to the ground. I actually thought that this winter, if I could find a spot that I could put my van inside for February and March, when it's usually windy and cold here in southern Alberta, I would probably do that, and I would probably take it apart because I wanted to change the layout just a little bit. And I thought if I did that, I would redo the insulation completely in it. But after using it for so many nights and different weather situation and everything, I've never been cold in here. The only thing I'm changing is I'm putting some drapes around here to isolate the side door a little bit and also to isolate from the front. And that's it. It's really quite warm in here. So that's my 2 suggestions. If you're going to do any builds for any reason, whether it be a trailer, an ambulance, a bus, or anything, get a good unit and insulate the heck out of it. So until next time, I think it's just about bedtime. Have a wonderful time. Get out there and enjoy the great outdoors, and we'll see you on the road. Bye-bye now.